I'm Joel Thomas and I live in Panama City. I've been living there for about 6 months, in between there and Boquete. The neighborhood is a little bit older in terms of architecture, probably like 80s and 70s, maybe from a Florida kind of perspective. It's not quite on the water, so it's in the Cangrejo area, which means the crab, and there's a lot of amazing restaurants there. It's really multicultural, a lot of hotels there, and just a place where there's a lot of activity, a lot of people going there for good food, a lot of good people there as well. What made me decide to move to Panama? I have about 13 reasons, but the short answer is opportunity for personal and professional growth. I think this, just from a market perspective, it's one of the fastest growing economies in the Western Hemisphere. I love that it's both a strategic place, both from a defensive and also offensive investment perspective. And there are a ton of companies moving here, relocating here. Also a ton of retirees who are coming here to live out their golden years. And so I started thinking it started out as an investment kind of perspective as I met Jackie back in the US and learned more about Panama. I was always thinking about South America, maybe Chile, maybe Colombia, and Panama slowly crept up to number one after learning more about the market here, the democracy, the amount of growth here, the companies that were moving here. And not just the opportunity to invest here and retire here, but also to live and to work here as well. So I found out there was a MBA program where they fly the professors down from the US, same accreditation, and the timing was kind of perfect for me as to create a great network and an opportunity not just, again, to invest here and retire here, but also to live, work here as well. So that's when I decided to really go all in. Plus it's winter free and I'm from Wisconsin, so that helps.
So what concerns did you have before moving here?
Sure. What concerned me, just any emerging market. I've traveled to 27 different countries, lived in 3, and so I always look at language, the barrier. I also look at the people, really the crime rates, how friendly they are. I also look at the ease of doing business, transportation, how easy is it to become a resident, how easy is it to work here, get the documentation, how easy is it to really get to know the people and the culture here. Is it open, is it multicultural, or is it very xenophobic and very homogeneous? So all those things really kind of were concerns I had. Quality of water, quality of food, those things as well. So those are all concerns that I had, and part of that is why I took 3 times to come down here, so I didn't fall head over heels in love with the place like Panama is so easy to do. So really wanted to take it slow before making a decision to really go all in.
Good. And were those concerns as big as you thought they would be?
Not really. Another concern was Wi-Fi. So sometimes, depending on where you are, the Wi-Fi can go in and out. If being a millennial, it's a big deal for us to constantly be connected. So that can be troubling sometimes, depending on where you are. Other than that, I think the food is great. A lot of different ethnicities here. It's kind of a melting pot in and of itself. Water, depending on where you are, can be a little bit of an issue, whether it's hot or cold or whether it's good, but there's always, like I said, bottled water. The language is a little bit different than the Spanish I grew up with in the classrooms, as well as in Spain and Colombia and Peru. It's got its own blend, which is fast, and they like to chop up words, but you get used to it, and it's all just a process of learning and expanding personally. And the other concern I had, crime. So crime was something I was really happy to see was actually quite low, and a lot of the reasoning for that is they say, at least the survey said for the last 2 years, that Panama is one of the happiest places in the world to live. Whether or not you believe that is up to you. From what I've seen so far, it seems to be closer to the truth than not. And I think the people are very open, very hospitable, and they're not as consumeristic or don't have as much envy or jealousy as other South American countries do. It also helps, they're very religious, so a lot of Catholic, very nuclear families here. And on top of that, I think that there is a lot of stability here, again, with the economy, and again, the easiest way to stop a bullet, as a developer in Casco Viejo says, is with a job. So I think there's a lot of opportunities that also keep people busy and also help reduce the crime rate. One of my best experiences in Panama was actually recently during the vacation we had, and I thought that Cerro Punta and Boquete and Volcan, this area in Chiriquí, which is just, to me, it's like the Garden of Eden. I mean, I've never seen a place where you can have a cactus growing next to a citrus tree growing next to a pine tree. I mean, you can throw a seed down and jump back, and the land is so fertile here, being part of Volcan Baru, that everything can grow here. And I love the clouds, the microclimate here, the views are just incredible. So being a Wisconsin Flatlander, you always want what you can't have. So this is definitely what I've always wanted. I was considering and almost moved to Switzerland before this, and so this area for me is very much like a tropical Switzerland. Weather's perfect, and I thought this is really the creme de la creme. But recently I took a trip in between Bocas del Toro and David. There is a cloud forest and Bosque Fortuna, and it's connected with another national park which goes into Costa Rica, and the views there were just incredible. There's a canyon there that you can jump into. The water looks like it's, you know, that Mediterranean aqua green, and the hiking is just incredible. So that area, the views, the waterfalls, the waterfall after waterfall, almost like every 5 minutes, and the canyon, it was just so visually stimulating. It's kind of a UNESCO heritage site waiting to happen. And there wasn't so many people there, so there's a great hostel up there called the Lost and Found Hostel. They have this really cool treasure hunt that you can do, and so I just had a blast there for 4 days. And so that was probably one of my favorite memories, that and discovering Casco Viejo. I'm a sucker for architecture and also good, inclusive real estate development. And that really fascinated me as well. What do I enjoy? I really enjoy the freedom here to experience life. The cost of living is very low. Transportation is relatively easy to find now that you have direct flights between David and Panama, so as well as Bocas. So really, I love how small Panama is, as well as the biodiversity. I mean, you can be on a beach from Boquete, you can be on a beautiful beach overlooking the Pacific at Las Olas, and about an hour and a half. So being able to have the mountains and the sea in one day, for example, is just one of the things that I love here. As well as, again, the opportunities, and some of the people that I've met here have really, both Panamanian as well as abroad, have really been remarkable. It's such a small country, but just the quality of life here and the quality of people that you meet are really, it's really special.
Have you made a lot of Panamanian friends?
I have, yes. So if you like being the minority, it's not for everybody. I love it personally because it forces me to adapt, it forces me to learn. It's kind of like being a child again. So for me, it's just from experience comes education, and I tend to learn the most when I am a minority, or when I am on my own and forced to adapt to another culture and forced to learn. And so being the minority, for example, in my MBA program, everyone else being manager, executive level, and most of them being Panamanian, it's really been great to learn from them how much Panama has changed, to hear how excited they are about where it's going, and as well as to listen to some of the successes in the current administration, current events, as well as some of the challenges that they're facing. So so yeah, so it's just been a really great opportunity for me to learn and to take pieces from them and their culture and internalize them, as well as share part of my culture as well.
What about your worst experiences?
Recently, we've had a lot of rain, and in the mountains here, depending on where you are and depending on the grade, can be a problem. So we've had some problems with rain affect the plumbing system and back up sinks and toilets and all of that, and actually rendered us without working water for about a week or to 2 weeks. Actually, it's still kind of trying to find out all that's wrong and everything that happened. Ironically, at the same time, when it rains, as I mentioned before, you also tend to lose Wi-Fi too. So you lose a little bit of that connection. Again, this is just in this market here in Boquete, but the water, depending on where you are, when it does rain, hopefully you like the rain if you live here, because it tends to rain for 6 months out of the year, almost every day, for at least an hour or two. I like it, just constant change, but for people that don't find it refreshing, it can be a bit of a problem. So it's just something that takes getting used to. But that's really the worst that I've seen it, and obviously it affected being able to wash dishes, being able to shower, all those things. So.
Have there been any pleasant surprises?
Sometimes little things of walking to trying to find a taxi out in the rural areas, and people stopping and offering you a ride and taking you into town. Little things like that have really gone a long way. Or being in a family setting, and the lady who is cooking, the grandma, invites you back for lunch the next day. So little things like that to me have meant a lot, as well as personal references that people have helped introduce me to people who can help me advance my career. It's been really great. Just such a small market, so really who you know is really important here. It's the same size as my state, so about 3-4 million people. So just who you know, and sometimes the generosity that they display, and people that they introduce you to try and help you along, especially when you're starting out like I have been in the last 6 months, completely changing direction and going all in, have really meant a lot for me.
Would you mind sharing with us what your average monthly expenses are?
Sure. My average monthly expenses this month for Panama are $1,500. So that includes my payment for the university as well, the cost of living, food, cell phone, and insurance.
Okay.
I'm a little bit more frugal than most. Big on financial education, as you probably know. So I'm definitely a little bit more frugal than most, but that'll probably change in January, being full time in the city and moving into an apartment, so that I'm looking at buying. So that'll probably increase with the HOA dues as well as the maintenance. So it might go up just a little bit, probably closer to 2,000. How am I funding my lifestyle? So I have investment property back home that supplies me with a little bit of passive income, but also I'm working as a financial planning and analysis, basically forecasting. It's kind of an investment banking role for a multinational in Panama, and that provides the bulk of my income. So that is really where I'm at now, and in the future I hope to have some passive income from a real estate project that is currently underway.
Tell us about how you handle health insurance and healthcare.
Sure. I've been to a few hospitals, clinics here, just stomach issues, things, this and that. It's amazingly cheap. I've gone without insurance and gone with insurance. So before the company provided me health and dental and life and everything else, I was with Worldwide, and so Worldwide has been pretty good. It's been very reasonable for your annual premiums, And again, it's not expensive here anyway. Actually, there's quite a few people I know who have come down to Panama just more or less for like healthcare tourism. People who've had eye surgery, people who've had open heart surgery, people who've had dentist work done, just here, and then they fly back to New Jersey or Texas after it's done. So having a Johns Hopkins hospital, world-renowned facility here in Panama City really helps, but there are a lot of specialists as well, even in the second biggest city like David as well. I know it's probably more important for the retirees, but there's a lot of great people here, both in the city as well as I brought a lot of information online where you can find the specialist you're looking for, and also get some feedback from people who've seen them as well before you go see them, so it's not such a scary experience. Yeah.
How do you feel about safety where you live?
Safety was something I looked at, given the recent history in both countries, and looking at the crime rates, looking at what types of crime as well that's committed, and it really, again, goes back to the people, how needy they are, and again, it really having such a robust market with tons of multinationals coming here, providing opportunities. The crime rate and at least the types of crimes have been very low relative to other countries. I've walked home many nights with bags, and some people have warned me, and I've never had any incident or any altercation. There was not a moment here that I felt worried in any way, knock on wood, but I'm also a tall, somewhat young American, so that might have something to do with it. But no, safety has been, like I said, it's been very easy to live here, and I haven't had any issue at all, or any worries either.
What would you like to have that isn't quite available in Panama? What do you miss the most from home?
Yeah, what do I miss the most from home? That's a great question. It's, to me, honestly, just being able to share some of the experiences with friends and family back home. I think that being able for them to share this, because a lot of people don't really, I think Panama is underrated, and a lot of people think it's just a canal here, but the beautiful beaches, the pristine beaches, the beautiful cloud forests, the mountains, it's really special. I mean, and how biodiversified, the biodiversity here. So just new surprises that keep happening. And this is somebody who hasn't even been to San Blas or Bocas del Toro, which everyone says, for some people, that's the best. So it's just, there's so many new places I keep discovering that are just incredibly beautiful. So just wishing that the people back home would come down and see Panama for what it is, because it has so much to offer.
So what's your internet and cell phone service like?
Yeah, great question. So for me, internet is pretty much offered through a local service, Cable Onda. They act as your service provider, as would a charter or any cable company would probably back home. They try to bundle packages and sell you the phone, the landline, the Wi-Fi, kind of put that all together. Most places in the city, they have Internet para Todos here, and Internet para Todos is kind of a government agency. It works sometimes it doesn't. It's supposed to be everywhere, even especially in rural communities as well, so people have access. Mark Zuckerberg was supposed to bring Facebook here a while ago to make it completely free for everybody. I think part of that fell through, or they only agreed to get certain parts due to control reasons. But cell phone service is pretty much you pay as you go. So you can have a contract. Most people I've met, including Panamanians, don't have contracts. They usually operate on kind of a prepaid card basis. You buy your phone outright, and then you just load it up with minutes for internet or certain bytes, gigabytes. They sell it in gigabytes, and then they also sell by the minute. So relatively cheap. Again, most people use WhatsApp here, which is an application that's ubiquitous. As long as you have Wi-Fi, you can make calls, you can text people, and that really reduces your bill. So versus the $100 I was used to paying with my iPhone back in the States every month, here it costs me honestly about $20 to $25 tops every single month. So Definitely cheap and very efficient. If you're considering coming to Panama, I think you should check out two sites. Two people who've really helped, I think, lay the groundwork for people considering living, investing, or retiring here are Jackie Lang and Bob Adams. And Bob has a site called retirementwave.com. He has a ton of videos on his Panama Wave site. Jackie has a ton of videos as well as great articles on her blog site. Boquete Ning, if you're considering coming to this market, is a great resource as well. And those on Bob's site, he pre-publishes quarterly reports, and so coming from kind of an economic international development background, they're very robust and usually give a lot of insight as to what's in the pipeline and what's coming. Usually it's to solve a lot of the problems. As one of the things that was really exciting is one of the things I don't enjoy that I didn't mention earlier was the sidewalk situation in Panama City and the amount of power lines. I mean, it's like cobwebs, but they just put together a $90 million, I think, bid, and they're accepting proposals, and we'll see what happens. But hopefully they can start to get those more underground and start to keep the sidewalks from being like Super Mario Brothers walking. I love walking. I love how small Panama City is. It's kind of like this small tropical Manhattan. So I love being able to walk around, and it is so small, and traffic can be bad depending on the time of day. So I love walking around there, but you definitely have to watch where you're going and adapt. So those are probably the best resources, I think, that are out there, other than coming down to experience it for yourself, and not just coming to two markets. Really, there's so many beautiful places, Bocas Chicas. If you're a beach person, I mean, there's so many. Playa Banao, really amazing. A lot of Israelis down there doing really great things. American developer as well. So that's really kind of a surfer's paradise. That's kind of becoming a Bali or Hawaii. Pedicee is another great area. I know Brad Pitt and Angelina Jolie just bought a place there, so that area is really coming along. Boquete, Volcan, if you love the mountains, fresh air. And if you're more of a city person and you like to have a more cosmopolitan feel, Costa del Este is very clean, very new, a little bit pricier. That's where most of the multinationals call home. But also just anywhere along the Cinta Costera, Paitilla, for example, is another great place to look if you're considering living here, and just stay a while and let Panama sink in. And I think most people are able to know within 2 to 3 weeks if it's for them or not. But constantly explore, and again, think about it. Go back home, marinate, and then come back. And don't buy right away. Try to rent at least for a year before really going all in to make sure it's for you. Because there are some surprises and there are some challenges, and hopefully those are pleasant surprises, and hopefully the challenges really fortify your feelings for Panama. So.
How has moving to Panama changed your life?
So many ways. It's honestly been forced me to really be patient. That's the one thing I think I've learned here is it's a place where you really need to be patient. If you're not a patient person, it can be very trying, very frustrating sometimes. So sometimes fast food is not fast. Also, it's taught me to be very persistent. It's humbled me in a lot of ways, which is really great. And again, it's been quite a journey here for the last 6 months. I kind of took a large risk coming down here, not just to invest and kind of plan a retirement or have an insurance policy, if you could say that, but to really look at working and living here. And so those two have really taught me a lot about myself as well as the culture here and other people. And so that I'm really grateful for the people who've made my experience what it is, and it's really transformed my life, I think, for the better. It's good.
So how did you end up in Panama? What made you choose to come to Panama?
How did I end up in Panama? It's a great question. I was actually on my way further south and the plane crashed and I just had to adapt. No, just kidding. Panama was one of 3 countries that I was looking at investing in later on in life. I've always been fascinated by Latin American cultures, love the music, love how vibrant they are, and the cost of living for me was very attractive. So for me, Latin American countries aren't for everybody. Panama is not for everybody, but if you're someone who likes to learn, someone who is really a lifelong learner, as well as someone who likes to produce, I think that the opportunity here to produce may be better than some of the more mature Western markets. I think there's a lot of opportunities here to be a producer, to be entrepreneurial, to be creative. Again, you have to have tough skin and really be flexible and really want to be here. But I think that the opportunity here is really incredible. So from I guess it's all started last January. I met Jackie in the States, and we were actually talking about real estate at an investor conference. And I was looking at investing abroad in an emerging market, tangible assets, income producing assets, just for something I could enjoy as kind of a multi-dimensional property, something that I could rent during the year and then come down once a month and be a snowbird like my great aunt and my grandma who were looking, more towards Arizona. At that time, it was a lot cheaper to get into, so they got in at the right time. For me, I feel like I couldn't really build a time machine to go back to that time and reap some of those great rewards and great opportunities that were available in the U.S. During the greatest economic era. So Panama and Latin America seemed like another obvious choice. There were kind of 13 reasons that I had, kind of a checklist, political, economic, as well as a lot of them dealing with just personal preference, quality of life. And Panama really checked a lot of the boxes, and Jackie invited me, hey, come down and check it out. We have some people coming down, and you should just come on a tour. So I did, and unfortunately, it got cut short because of an opportunity to work with the government of Colombia and with the World Trade Organization. And so I took that opportunity, and everything had to basically stop. But I got to see a little glimpse of it, and I loved it. So after the project ended, I came right back down after a short stint in Guatemala, just seeing Tikal and the beautiful history of Guatemala and the Mayan culture. And I spent a month here. I met with a few other entrepreneurs, completely different markets. So one was doing real estate development. He's a former trader in Japan. There's another who's younger, who's 26, doing more online marketing, digital branding strategies. Everyone had the same thing to say about it. And at that time, I also discovered an opportunity to do an MBA here with the professors from the U.S. being flown down. I also found out that it was about a third of the price. So I looked at it as a great networking opportunity, a great way to get plugged into a lot of the multinationals who are relocating here, Caterpillar, you have Procter & Gamble, Philips, just to name a few. So a lot of Microsoft is coming as well. So I thought it was kind of a strategic play, kind of create a soft landing. If nothing else, I could gain some professional development experience here before the next international development project came along. But really, it started out as kind of an investment insurance type of way of looking at Panama, and later started to change as I began to question myself, why not just live and work there as well? I think that the opportunity is there, and the more I looked at the opportunities and the hiring opportunities, and the pay scale and the cost of living, and really did a lot of analysis and a lot of soul searching, I decided to really make the jump and to go all in, as this is kind of where I want my future to be. So that's kind of how it came to be. In the midst of doing that, I discovered a lot of different opportunities. I'm not, as a millennial, I know technology, but I'm not a tech startup. But there's some wonderful opportunities, like Startup Panama, for example, at the City of Knowledge, where some younger people are really taking advantage of seed money and their business accelerator program. But also younger professionals as well who've taken the chance, like me. A lot of people, like I said, I'm just standing on the shoulders of giants, as I mentioned, some of them who've been here longer than I have, and who are so willing to share their experience, their likes, their dislikes. But again, the younger professionals, I think a lot of them don't really have the eyes to see the opportunity here. But I think again, through the MBA program or through tech startups or even some younger people who've been entrepreneurial and just done things real estate wise or from a real estate development have done very well here as well. So that's kind of why I wanted to come down here as well, just to be to walk the walk and to talk the talk and to pull this off for myself and for my future and for my family. To offer them another exotic place to get away and another insurance policy as well, but really for my own kind of professional development and personal development as well. And that's almost been a year, so everything's starting to be more fruitful.